I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. My box is moving around. No, Dr. Joyner. Public comment.
Hola, buenas tardes.
All right.
Okay, who will be keeping time?
Let's see. Mr. Wilcox.
I can do time.
Thank you.
Okay. Our first speaker is Heiklis Williams.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. I hope everyone got some good rest. My name is Heiklis Williams. I'm the president for the Paralocal 3429, representing local paraprofessional in the Board of Education and some of our support staff. Today, I want to draw your attention to an MOA attached to the agenda for the paras to receive $25 an hour for the before and after school program. We are urging the board to approve this MOA tonight. We want to thank Dr. Tracy. Thank you so much, Dr. Tracy, for initiating this effort for us in the past 2 years so that we can get above that $14.50 that's in our contract. We, as the paraprofessional, we want to, sometimes we don't get to say thank you, but we thank you, Dr. Tracy. We know you're about to retire and we hope you can tarry with us a little longer. We certainly want to emphasize the appreciation tonight. With the continual rise and in the cost of living and the competing higher rates for full and part-time pay rate, it would be a huge loss for students not to have staffing for the extra hours of teaching and learning. So we would appreciate the approval so we can participate in this. This is a factor and a huge indicator that we need to be paid a fair and equitable wage in the next contract that is about to begin shortly. We're asking that at least one of the board members be a part of the Board of Education negotiation team. As some of you may recall, our last contract did not go as well, despite the wage equity committee that was put in place to address the inequities, and as it all proved futile for us. Our members play a very integral role in the teaching and learning of our students, and that should reflect in our salaries and our benefits. We are willing to put our boots on the ground, or voices in the air, or a pen and paper, or whatever it takes to work collaboratively with the New Haven Public Schools and the city to procure the funds needed to ensure our staff and students receive the creme de la creme of New Haven. We want to continue to work in New Haven, where most of us live, vote, and pay our taxes. However, we want to be able to afford staying here. A decent wage for modest living is all we're asking for. We want to thank, and personally, I want to thank our wonderful and supportive principals. Want to thank Ms. Gemma Lumpkin, Ms. Tiffany Jackson, Ms. Lisa Flegler, and to you board members, I want to give you a great thank you for your support, and I appreciate the approval of this MOA tonight. Thank you so very much.
The next person to speak, Jasmine Reed.
Good evening, folks. Hope all is well. My name is Jasmine Reed. I'm a paraprofessional at Clinton Avenue School and a union member of our local para union. First off, I would like to thank Dr. Tracy and her team for proposing this increase to the board today, increasing the salary from $14.50 an hour to $25 an hour for before and after school programs. We are truly thankful. We urge the board members to approve this. As you know, we're working in New Haven. Most of us are living in the community that we're working in. We want to continue to bless and help our students who live in our community, but we can't continue to go to work every day and get paid the wages that we're getting paid. It's hard to survive. As you know, there's an fluctuation with everything. Social Security has recently got an increase. Food stamps has gone up. I think we should also see that reflection in our paycheck. We're just asking for a fair living pay. Thank you for your time today. God bless you and be blessed and not stressed. Have a wonderful evening.
And Madam President, with no other hands, I'll call on Board Member Golson.
Thank you. I just want to get on the record some points I brought up at the last meeting that haven't been resolved. The first point is that the score sheet for the approved cleaning contract that I asked for several months ago and many meetings ago, I've lost count. I have not received yet. I find it odd and sad that this administration won't respond to a board member's request for information. I also asked for, had to do an FOI because again, I'm not getting information that I request for. I requested emails between board members, communications director pertaining to discussions around silencing me. I have not, again, that was 5 weeks ago. I still haven't received a response to that. Again, a board member asking for information is not getting it, so I can't imagine what the public is getting. Thirdly, I was shut out of the Teaching and Learning Committee last week. Teaching and Learning Committee is a committee of the whole. I was not given access for about 10-15 minutes when I finally gave up. I want to make sure that's corrected by the next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting. Fourth, I asked for, and I hope that we're getting at this meeting today, a briefing on the student transfers at Brennan Rogers. I was not given information about that before it was done. It was announced to alders, to the local alder, but I didn't get any information about it until midway through the last board meeting in a text message. So I'm concerned about the lack of communication with board members, and I hope that is correct, or at least with me. I don't know how it's going with other board members, but I hope that's corrected. And last but not least, I sent a request to the board president last week asking for a special board meeting with the Commissioner of Education. Since that meeting that occurred with her several months ago regarding attendance and funding to the school, to the Memphis school systems was not open to myself and others. I'm asking for a special meeting with the commissioner, who I understand is more than welcome, more than happy to come down and discuss with this board some issues around those issues that were discussed at that meeting, particularly after seeing the report that we got in our packages for this meeting around attendance and suspension. I think it's more imperative than ever that we as a board have a discussion with the commissioner and figure out where we're going as a school system. Thank you very much for your time.
And Madam President, there is another hand, Alice Coleman. Ms. Coleman, you may speak. Ms. Coleman, you may speak. I'm going to assume that's an error and move and lower. If you did intend to speak, please raise your hand again. Madam President, that concludes the raised hands.
Okay, thank you, Dr. White and Mr. Wilcox. So we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. I think that the agenda is such that we should be able to move fairly quickly through it. So just please be succinct with your committee reports and the discussion, obviously, as much as possible. So we'll move on to the action items, and the first being the approval of the board meeting minutes of November 14th. Is there a motion to accept or a motion to approve? Mr. Wilcox?
I move we approve the board minutes for November 14th, 2022.
Dr. Joyner?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote to move the November 14th meeting minutes. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Ms. Roman, is she on? No. Mr. Cruz Bustamante,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so the minutes pass. Next item is the personnel report. Dr. Tracy?
You're on mute, Dr. Tracy.
I touched something and my screen disappeared. Okay. Good evening, board. Good evening, members of the community who are watching and listening. The personnel report for this afternoon is a very sparse one. We have 4 teacher resignation, 2 retirements, 1 administrator, 1 a teacher, and 3 new teacher hires. I must say that on the action report, I am pleased to say, no, not the action report. Yeah, I'll ask for the action report to be approved, and then I'll go on to the other report to say what I need to say. So I ask that you approve the personnel report as is submitted.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, I move that we approve the action items of the superintendent's personnel report.
For a second, Dr. Joyner?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Bolton?
Yeah, on the blue and green sheets that we have more than twice as many teachers as resigning as we're bringing on board. So we're obviously still going in the wrong direction. I'm a little concerned because we keep hearing excuses that it's about money and they're being attracted somewhere else. I don't know how true that is or not. And I think we can't move towards solving the problem without figuring out what the problem is. I was going to tonight submit a resolution asking this board to hire a firm to do a study, maybe to do a exit interviews with some of the folks that are leaving, to give us an independent ideal of what's going on with this teacher exodus. so we can figure out how to stop it. I'm not gonna do that tonight because I make a resolution, I can't even get a second. I'm hoping someone else will take up the cause and that we look at hiring some sort of firm to do several different things. But the first thing that we should be doing is setting up some sort of process for interviewing and providing an independent report to this board on why people are leaving. I just don't see that happening. No disrespect to our HR department that's fairly busy trying to bring people on, trying to recruit people. I think we should have somebody at the other end doing that. So I'm not going to do that this evening. I hope somebody else does. If not, I will submit something before the next board meeting for review by this board. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Golson. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we will vote to approve the personnel report, the action items of the personnel report. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Golson,
Yeah.
Mr. Golson,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Ms. Roman still not on, Mr. Cruz Bustamante,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so the personnel report passes. Discussion and possible Head Start request.
Before that, Madam President, let me talk about the other item that is not an action item, but just to give an update on that.
Yes, thank you.
It is sad that we're losing Dr. Michelle Sherman after 35 years of serving New Haven Public School. She started out as, I think, a physics teacher, one of those science teachers at Wilbercross High School. And then she was brought to the central office to be in charge of the research and assessment. And then later on, she was promoted to director. She does a lot of our state reporting and a lot of those things, managing Power School, managing teacher and administrator evaluation. And she's just an all-rounder, very quiet, but very, very efficient and valuable to New Haven Public Schools. So we're sad to see Dr. Sherman go from us. And that's one of those areas we have to work hard to try to replace, because whoever takes on that position also has to be very tech savvy to manage the volume of reports that goes to the state. Currently, although she's not our data analyst, she does support us in getting at least some of our data out. We've posted again for data analysts, so we're hoping we'll get someone. We keep posting for the last 4 years and we're coming up short. So that's important for us. I need to say this to this board. And thank you, Dr. Joyner, for the article you sent out to all of us. I think it went to the entire board about the dearth of teachers across the nation. It's not just germane to New Haven Public Schools. There are many teachers across the state. There are many vacancies across the state, not just New Haven Public Schools. We have a total of 251 vacancies, not just teachers, 251 vacancies across the spectrum of the district. Of that, 114 are teachers. Of that 114, 88 are classroom-facing teachers. Now, please know that we call psychologists, counselors, and all those people are also considered teachers under the state generalization of who teachers are. But in terms of classroom facing, not including psychologists and counselors or what have you, we have 88 classroom facing teacher vacancies right now, many in the core subjects. When I say core subjects, I mean science, math, social studies, and English. We have in high school, we have 32 missing. In middle school, we have 13 missing. In elementary school, K-6, we have 25 missing across the spectrum from pre-K all the way up through grade 6. So we have that because we've been tracking the data to see what's coming in, what's going out. And yes, the board member is right. It's not just about salary. People leave for different reasons. There are people who talk about work conditions. There are people who relocate for $38,000 or $20,000 extra in neighboring district. We hope we'll be able to stop that bleed with our new teacher contract that the board just passed. So there's several reasons why people leave New Haven Public Schools. There's several reasons why administrators leave New Haven Public Schools. And I hope that from the board down to the principals, to the superintendent, to everyone, that we make the conditions of such that people want to come here. And we stop degrading New Haven Public Schools so people don't want to come here. It's a great place to work. I've worked here for 39 years of my life, and I enjoyed every moment of it and would not trade it for another school district. I've had other opportunities, but I decided to stay in New Haven Public Schools. So I just want to say, to put certain things to rest, that this is the total vacancies that we have across the system. And it's not just impacting teachers. There are paras leaving, there are custodians, there are security guards. It's right across the system. And if you were to check other school systems, they're having the same issues too, not just New Haven. So I guess all these other school systems are having problems with the same thing New Haven has: salaries, working conditions, et cetera, et cetera. So here we are, HR and us, all of us, we're working our best to incentivize folks to come to New Haven. When they come to New Haven, they also want to make sure they're coming to an environment that is accepting of them and that look out for their needs also. So that's what we have in terms of this other sheet that I have to show you. We also hire several teachers. The first onboarding was 150 teachers back in August. And since then, we have hired a significant amount of teachers. People are in, people are out. Had we not hired, would have been in serious problems here in New Haven Public Schools. Thank you so much for listening to me ranting and raving. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Dr. Brenner?
Okay, thank you. I think that the way we bring people in and also the way we send them off is really important. And I just want to say some things about Michelle Sherman-Klein. I met Michelle Sherman-Klein as a teacher in the science department at Wilbercross High School. She is a consummate professional. I also think that she's irreplaceable. I mean, we can find people that can do the work, but her professional skills and her commitment to urban education is phenomenal. And it's going to be hard to find a replacement for her. So I just want to wish her well. I also want to make a comment about the problems with teacher resignations. It's really a national crisis. I only sent that article to Dr. Tracy, to the president and the vice president, but I would ask them to forward that to other board members because we need to understand the context that we're in. We're in a context where in this country, we have a human resource crisis in medicine and education. In a word, frontline workers, and school boards don't have the authority to make the major changes that are necessary. We're going to have to prevail upon the governor and the president of the United States and Department of Education to do something to try to attract teachers to the profession. The other real serious problem is behavior of students. It's disgraceful that you can walk in a school and be called a bitch. If you're a student, you can be assaulted. If you're a security guard, you can be assaulted. And if we allow a small number of individuals to terrorize our communities and our schools, then shame on us. Shame on us. If I were a principal now and I couldn't run my school by eliminating people that were problems, I would just walk away. I can do something else. And I'm sick of soft pedaling it, because I was attacked by a student when I was a teacher with 2 knives. And I've been on the floor trying to keep students from fighting. I've gone in the bathroom, girls' bathroom, to break girls up from fighting, and that was a big risk. And there are people who know me, who know all the stuff that were in school when I was an administrator and a teacher. that know all the stuff that went on in schools that sometimes, even before we had security, there was serious problems. And I want my grandchildren to go to school and be safe. I want my family members to go to school and be safe. And I want every single human being that works in our school system to be safe. And I want our communities to be safe. But if we don't help people out who are problematic, or help them out if they remain problematic, then that's on us. And I didn't sign up for this. I did not sign up to be part of a system that allows people to abuse people, and we just cannot have restorative justice for everybody. And I'm sorry. There ought to be some atonement as a part of that. And there ought to be a situation whereby if you continually, willfully harm people, that you can't be in the regular system. And if we don't change it, we're gonna look back on today as the good old days. I'm telling you, I know, I've been there. So we have to really create a safe environment for people to teach in, for kids to learn in, for people to be security guards in, and the secretaries and so on and so forth. And the stuff, when we have people going out with concussions and having long-term problems because they were simply trying to keep people from harming each other, that's on us. And we've got to redefine school systems in light of the kind of challenges that we face in this particular world that we live in. It is a horrible, horrible environment for a lot of people these days. And teachers should not have to go to school afraid. Kids should not have to go to school afraid. Principals should not be afraid to do what they have to do to protect the people under their watch. And I rest my case.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Goldson?
I agree with you. We need to understand the context that we are in. In order to do that, we need to have someone define that for us, right? By collecting information. And with all due respect to the superintendent, there are all kinds of reasons why people are leaving on this system. We just had 2 teachers leave at the beginning of this year because they had involuntary transfers. They were being told that their classes were no longer going to exist and they had to go to a different school, a different grade. And then they find out several months later that their positions have been reposted, the positions that they were forced out of. You know, so we lost 2 long-term, very good teachers in this system because we transferred them to another class and then reposted their positions. So yes, we need to understand the context that we are in. We need to understand and get the ammunition that we need to be able to go to the state and talk about those disciplinary issues. If teachers are leaving because of disciplinary issues with students, we should know that. We should have that. We should have that information in writing by an independent source that we could then go to the powers that be and say, these are the issues that we're facing, and these are the issues that we have to address, and these are some of the changes that we need to make. So yes, again, I agree with Dr. Joyner. We need to understand the context. And in order to understand the context, we need to collect the information. And in order to collect the information, we need an independent body to come in and do that, because our HR department is already stretched beyond the limits. And we don't need to put any more onto them. We should bring in some professionals, get the information we need to get, and move on, instead of being at these meetings every 2 weeks and being told people are leaving and giving general statements about what it might be, why it might be, instead of having specific information as to what it is and how to move on it. So again, I'm asking this board to seriously consider bringing one of our lawyers in. We got them, amending their contracts, add a few more dollars to them, and having them start to do exit interviews at the very least, to start off with, having exit interviews with some of these teachers about why they're leaving, so that we can have an independent scientific study to be able to act on. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golson. Okay, no further discussion. We can move on to the next item, which is the Head Start request for approval. For funding approval. Mr. Wilcox?
Yeah, I think I can address this. So this is the Head Start requires that the board, as the governing body, as well as the Policy Council, which is the group of parents and other stakeholders for Head Start, approve the funding request. There was a memo in our packet, and it's basically that we're going to be approving the submission of them requesting to carry over unused funds, and they've outlined a plan as to how they're going to use it. So I'll go ahead and make that motion now. And that is, I move that we approve the submission of the application for the administration to request carrying over the unused Head Start funds as outlined in our meeting materials.
Dr. Joyner?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote to approve the Head Start request for funding.
Just point of order, Mr. Golson.
Madam President, thank you. I just want to say, first of all, I want to commend Mr. Wilcox on the work he's been doing on Head Start for several years now. Just, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago, we were on the verge of losing Head Start because we weren't taking it seriously and wasn't focusing on it. And we decided as a body to actually put together a Head Start committee, which is now generally a standing committee, and actually focus on it and address all the issues that were coming up. And I want to commend Mr. Wilcox for leading that effort from the very beginning and getting us on solid footing. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Mr. Wilcox?
I'll just say thank you, but of course it's the work of the Head Start staff that that's making all the good things happen there. And so that's the Head Start director, Mary Derwin, but also a whole host of other people whose names, of course, I'm forgetting right at the very moment. But we have a lot of fine folks in the Head Start that is that's making that happen. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we know for the discussion, we'll vote on that item. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Bustamante,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
Frozen?
Mayor Elicker,
Yes. Yes. Did you get me? Yes.
Ms. Rivera, you keep freezing.
Is it me that's frozen or Ms. Rivera?
Ms. Rivera.
I voted yes 6 or 7 times, I think.
You can only count it once in Connecticut.
Please don't say that in front of Trumpers.
You're on auto tunes.
Mr. Wilcox, look like he might have to step in and take over for a little while.
Unfortunately, we were in the middle of a vote and I don't know if we had finished. Had we finished? Anybody had not voted on that item?
Probably the president.
Yeah, the president.
The president. Okay. Well, she's not here to vote. As I heard it, the motion carries. and we'll move on to the next item, which is discussion of possible action on an MOA for paraprofessional for before and after school programs. Dr. Tracy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. I have been in conversation with the Power Union President, Ms. Heiklis Williams, and we decided to move this item forward as I had originally put forth, but because I had put that in with other things, it didn't get to go the way we wanted it to go. So now Heiklis and I have worked together and we have agreed to this $25 per hour for work performed by paras before and after school program. They're actually the linchpin of our before and after school programs. And I would like the board to approve this memorandum.
Mayor Elicker?
Thanks, Dr. Tracy. Can you just remind us where the funding comes for this?
This is from the ARPESA funds.
Thank you. Seems quite reasonable to me.
Mr. Goldson?
I'll wait to the motion to ask questions about the actual item.
Dr. Yarbrough?
I move that we approve the MOA for paraprofessionals for before and after school program.
I second.
Second.
We have a second. I heard that was Dr. Benita's seconding. Any discussion? And Mr. Goldson?
Two things. One is just to let you know, it looks like Ms. Rivera is back on, I think. The second point, I had a couple of quick questions. Is this retro to the beginning of the school year? Are staff that already worked, are they going to get this funding already, or is this from the date that we passed this?
This
That's
is
my first question.
this September. This is the 2022-2023.
So anyone who has worked in this after school program as a paraprofessional will get additional pay for the hours that they already worked but didn't get
That's
the
the school
extra
year.
funding for.
This
Okay.
school year when before and after school program started. Yes.
Okay, great. The second, that's terrific. The second question I have for you is, I noticed that the teachers are not attached to this. Are we expecting to see anything anytime soon? That's my second question. And my third question is, has the lack of the memorandum of agreement, of having this agreement, has that caused any staffing problems in these before and after school programs? Because I've heard anecdotally that it has. So I'd like to hear from you whether or not it has affected attendance by teachers and paraprofessionals.
Well, today, Mr. Golson, I'm only addressing the paras as we have here on the sheet. So I'm dealing strictly with the paras right now. The paras, because they are very helpful in our Saturday academies. And I know this past Saturday academy, they did not have enough staffing because of this. And these are the folks we usually rely on to support these programs. So there was an impact.
Are we also seeing an impact with teacher attendance?
I'm only dealing with the paras right now. Teachers we'll deal with later when their part, if it comes up, is dealt with. Thanks.
Okay, I understand that. I would just like to. Okay, thank you very much. I'm concerned about this whole teacher thing. I saw the document that they sent to you where they basically said, we just want to negotiate, just come to the table with us. I don't understand why we haven't done that yet. And are we going to wait till school's over before we do that, or are we going to try to get to that as quickly as possible? I guess I'm not going to get an answer to that.
No comments, Mr. Golson. Again, I'm
okay.
dealing right now just with the para as it's on the table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, just one other comment. This just is problematic and shows one of the reasons why we're having problems with keeping teachers. Because we refuse to negotiate in good faith and provide them with the funding that they've already said they're interested in having. And just want to sit at the table for a moment and have a negotiation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golson.
You know,
Okay,
my
that's
phone's
because I'm
sharing for
using,
me.
I'm using my phone. That was a good loop, huh? No, I'm using my phone as well for the audio, just in case my computer goes out again.
Thought you were reporting from Mars.
No. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on the MOA for paraprofessionals for before and after school programs. Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
I was gonna say, don't tell me. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Mr. Golson?
Yes,
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Dr. Ben,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes. I was a yes.
Mr. Cruz Bustamante?
Yes.
Cruz Bustamante? Mr. Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, and so that item passes. Finance and Operations Committee, Mr. Wilcox.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion here. If anybody needs anything moved separately, please let me know now. Hearing and seeing none, making the motion here, I move that we approve the 1 abstract, the 4 agreements, the 1 contract, and the 3 purchase orders that are listed as action items.
Dr. Yarborough?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Golson?
thank you. Yeah, I want to thank the committee for its fine work. I brought this up before, I'm going to bring it up again. Several years ago, our auditors suggested that we add the information-only items to the agenda, even though we weren't voting on them, that they should be part of the public record, because they are finance issues, they are spending issues. So I'm again suggesting that the board, that the president add the information only items to the agenda in the future, as suggested by our auditor several years ago. One time we were doing it, we stopped doing it, I don't know why. Even though we're not voting on them, it's important to have them up there for people to review them. And one of the reasons why I'm saying that is because there's an item on there that I'm very concerned about. The agreement with this Tethered Ed organization, which is an international organization hosting some sort of website to help people better understand our schools. And I guess somehow it's supposed to help them figure out what magnet schools to apply for. I still haven't figured out how they actually do that, because it's a lottery, you know, so it's not a science, it's actually a game of chance. And somehow they convinced us to give them $15,000 a year to have a website that's mainly, I don't know if it's Portuguese or Spanish, it's in a different language. You have to actually use a Google tool to translate the page. And you can't, in order to get information from the page, any information from the page, you actually have to give them your personal, you have to sign up for an account and give them your personal information. I'm real concerned about this. It was like something like a bait and switch. They came in and did some data stuff for us for free. We were supposed to be able to use the website for free for a little while. And now they're saying we have to pay for it. And it's just disappointing and frustrating that we're using our money, even if it's only $15,000, that we're using our students' money to pay for this company in South America to sell us some website space. I wanted to put that on the record. that I absolutely disagree with us funding tethered ed. And I'm going to continue to make that point and perhaps even contact other authorities to see if they think that this is a expenditure we should be having. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Mr. Wilcox? Mhm.
Just two things real quick. One is the information only items do appear in the board packet and are posted in the other meeting materials. So I guess we could get a ruling from council as to if that's sufficient for the purposes, but they are included in the meeting materials of every meeting. And the second thing is you might have missed that part of the meeting where we had some good testimony related to the that particular vendor, related to, it's not just a website with some information that they addressed a lot of the questions that the website, when we pay for it, will be a website tailored to us in English. And it also includes not just presenting some information about schools, but also being able to model one's chances of getting into their school of choice based on what they're submitting, using last year's data as the model to model it out, so that parents can get a real time when they're filling out the applications to kind of see what the sense of if they could possibly get into that school based on the numbers in the lottery. And so that allows them to then make some changes, adding some other schools to their thing, so that so the parents have that information early on rather than after the fact, after the lottery's run, where they don't have those options. So a lot of information there. I'm very comfortable with this moving forward, with the superintendent moving forward on that myself. But just wanted to address those two things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Golden?
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the chairman. I did watch that meeting. I did hear the testimony from the staff, but they didn't respond to the one question that I asked, which was how many users used this website last year. We're paying $15,000. Are we having 15 people use it? Are we having 15,000 people use it? So I have a real concern about whether this is, that question wasn't answered. And with all due respect, the staff pushing this, is one thing. Having parents get up there and testify to its use would be a whole different thing. So yes, I did hear the meeting. I'm not convinced that it's a good use of our funding, and I hope that that we figure it out in the future. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on the F&O items. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Mr. Golden?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Cruz Bustamante?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. And so those items passed. We'll move on to the students' report.
Awesome. Good evening, y'all. 6:21 p.m. and it's pitch black outside. I don't like that. I'm already not in a good headspace. But just to set the record straight for what was said in the beginning of the meeting, I agree with Mr. Goldson with that we need clear, succinct data as to why teachers are leaving. And yes, we know that the teacher shortage and the education system's failing and collapse is a national crisis, right? But that's why New Haven, especially since we call ourselves a world-class school district, has the opportunity to lead in this case, to lead new solutions, to lead new initiatives. Now, to the matter of restorative justice, which again, it comes up and it's like the boogeyman a lot of the time in these political spaces. We can't say that restorative justice has failed when it has not been implemented in New Haven public schools, point blank period. We can't. We can't. Because restorative justice, and again, I'm assuming most of us are not professionals in restorative justice, including myself. I have very surface level knowledge about it, right, as an organizer. But what I do know is that restorative justice isn't about avoiding accountability. And I would like for us to cease that language immediately. We cannot say that restorative justice has failed, that we cannot restore and reform students when we never tried in the first place. Furthermore, let's say we give all of our administrators, teachers, complete and utter authority to expel any student that they want out of their classroom, right? While that may be a temporary solution, a temporary Band-Aid, we also have to ask the questions of what then? We expel a student out of a classroom. What then? We expel a student out of a school. What then? What then? They end up in jail. What then? They get out of jail. What then? And again, I go to Wilbercross. There's 1,700 students there. And yes, I agree. There is that air of tension and fear amongst each other. Low-key worse than last year. Like I was expecting this year to be a little more calm than last year, but people are just really uptight with each other right now. But that does not mean that we crack down with more punitive punishments, with more police, with more carceral solutions. Yeah, as y'all could tell, I'm just very passionate about that. And I've had multiple conversations, hundreds, thousands of conversations with students, with parents, with community members, with teachers, with administrators, as a community organizer. And I can safely say, like, we can't say that it has failed when we never tried it in the first place. Our students are facing a lot of problems. And I agree with Dr. Tracy that we should not be disparaging our school districts. Therefore, I completely disagree with us characterizing our students as menaces, as uncontrollable, as unruly, because that's simply not the case. There is a small minority who cause problems, who have violent tendencies, who harm others, who perpetuate fear, but that's not the majority. It's not. And it's time for us to also stop acting, and I say us, because I also want to take responsibility, right? But I want us to take responsibility and stop acting like helpless puppies, okay? We have a part of the municipal power, city government at our hands, a part of it, but still powerful to mobilize. It's just a matter of mobilizing the existing resources, the existing labor, the existing people, the existing capital to achieve these goals. If we really wanted to address the systemic inequities and injustices that students face that causes teachers to leave and students to suffer, we could, if we really wanted to. So going along with my student report, the November citywide student council meeting just happened. I was so shocked because I'm like, October just happened and now we're already facilitating November. But in an email that I sent to the board members, we could see that there's a phase plan, you know, me and my plans. I love my little plans, y'all. Phase one, which was in October, was where all of the student councils basically got together and voted on their top concerns in New Haven Public Schools. And from that, we got a clear sentence. Our main concern in New Haven Public Schools, this is through the dialogue of 50+ student leaders, is that the lack of community, safety, and accountability threatens our livelihoods. Now, that's a very vague thing, right? So then we have phase two. Y'all know all of my phases, right? This month, we try to narrow it down a little more, define it more precisely so that we can create an action plan, and then we'll have training, and then we'll execute that action plan to put pressure on this board and on other entities such as the state government if we need to. But along with that, you know, a lot of the conversations that came up this month was basically that students have nothing to lose. That was a very common theme. And if you read that in the report that I also sent to y'all, it's right there. Like there's no other way to mince words. People feel like they have nothing to lose. And these self-destructive attitudes, this harm that we perpetuate against each other, this oppression that kind of leaks into the classroom and leaks into the school, is perpetuated and influenced by economic and political conditions, right? But this isn't a political theory class. You already know all that. But for the future, just wanted to give a succinct overview. In December, we are going to be looking into more solutions as to how we can politically empower students in the school and in the community, integrate social emotional learning and life skills and liberatory pedagogy into the curriculum, create a safety net for students who need support, basically a way to intervene before students become a problem. For building nourishing relationships in the school, obviously that happens every day. Our teachers are great. I have amazing teachers and administrators and principal, right? But seeing how we could scale that up to create a safe, sturdy container. And 5, building new systems of accountability and harm reduction that effectively addresses conflicts. I don't know how that looks like, but that's why we're going to brainstorm that a little more in December. We'll probably talk to a couple of professionals. And if y'all want to join, I believe the next one is in December 16th. I will hold my questions and I'll probably email y'all my questions just for the sake of time. But that concludes my student report. And those 5 themes, they weren't just pulled out of the whim. Those were common themes that came up in November's discussion. Thank you, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz Bustamante. Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Mr. Golton, did you have I saw you raise your hand, but you didn't.
I really appreciate his, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I really appreciate Mr. Bustamante, Cruz Bustamante's passion, especially when it comes around to suspending and expelling students. I looked at the numbers, played with the numbers a little that were put into our packages. I assume that we're going to have a discussion during the superintendent's report about that information. I hope that we do because I have some real concerns about it. I mean, you look at these numbers and you see 16%, almost 17% of the students in high school in the community have been suspended. I mean, 17%, that's just crazy. Out of 278 students, that's just a crazy number. And we have a bunch of schools where half the kids are chronically absent, and those schools kind of match up to the schools where kids are getting suspended the most. And I think we have to have a real discussion about that. And I think that was one of the concerns that the state had when they met with our folks earlier last couple of months ago that I wasn't invited to a meeting that I wasn't invited to. And I think it's important for us to have that discussion. And I hope Mr. Cruz Bustamante keeps it on, keeps that on our agenda. I certainly will try to do that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golton. Mr. Cruz Bustamante?
Sorry, I don't want to take any more time, but I just got so passionate. I forgot to also mention that part, right? When we talk about suspension rates and chronic absenteeism, the solution that we're looking for, I don't want us to, we want to decrease suspensions. Therefore, let's keep really at-risk kids inside the school who can continue to perpetuate harm onto other students, right? That's not the goal. The current data that we have can act as a diagnostic. Okay, this is a problem. We have this many expulsions. We have this many, we have this many chronically absent students, right? Now, how can we address that problem, right? But I just want to make that clear. And I feel like a lot of school districts do that, where they see their graduation rates, for example, are utter trash. And instead of actually implementing solutions to increase the graduation rate in an organic and authentic way, they lower the standards, right? Like we see that a lot. They lower the standards like, oh, you don't need to take a math class, or oh, you don't need to take this English course to graduate. That's not the solution. Just wanted to add that in there. Again, thank y'all. And I know that was very passionate or anything, but again, I am more than open to talking to y'all individually or as a group about how we can continue to pursue these solutions. Thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz Bustamante and Mr. Golson. Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cruz Bustamante. I just want to acknowledge and thank you for the very close connection between kind of identifying a challenge and then listing out potential solutions and then working with the student leaders to move forward a solution. One of the sentences in your report that you shared with us earlier says, while student councils exist in almost all high schools already, they merely exist as an advocacy and an advisory body that has no real teeth. A possible solution is, and then there are a number of solutions kind of all throughout what you've been sharing. And one of the things that I'm interested in is just, how the students, in addition to advocating, lead peers, how students can influence, those they're next to. And I saw some of that in what you outlined and what the students came up with was as possible solutions. So thank you very much just for that close connection between what the challenges are and then the possible solutions. And I'm excited about just the implementation of those over time because I see them coming. So thank you for your leadership in that. Thank you for Mashai's work in that. That's all, President Rivera.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll move on to teaching and learning report. Dr. Joyner.
Well, I'm listening to a lot of things that have been said tonight about all aspects of the school system, and everything that's been said has an impact on the teaching and learning climate in schools and classrooms. I've also heard some straw man arguments of people advancing statements that I haven't heard anybody make and then arguing against it, but that's okay. The other thing I want to say is that school board meetings is not the best venue for getting at deeply embedded issues. And what we try to do in teaching and learning, since Ms. Red-Hanna has taken over, we've trying to focus on instruction and the factors that impinge on instruction in schools. A full core of teachers, which is a challenge, as well as a safe and orderly environment. I was glad to hear Mr. Cruz Bustamante talked about building community and also safety. And I'd like to make a distinction between suspending a kid for premeditated violence and suspending a kid for some kind of spontaneous thing that might have happened in an argument. And if you've worked in schools for as long as I have, if you've taught in schools, if you run schools, if you work with schools across the world, you know that there is something called premeditated violence. It happens in our communities every day. And the network news is full of it. If you look at what's happening in Colorado and Virginia and so on and so forth. And quite frankly, you don't have to listen to me. But if you don't do anything about premeditated violence in our schools, you can kiss teaching and learning goodbye. Because you cannot educate an empty seat and you cannot educate an angry seat. And if a law is fair, enforce it. If it's not, change it. So I'll move on to what we're trying to focus on in teaching and learning now. And most of it will be in a report that Ms. Red-Hanna gives. So I won't waste any more time on that, but we do have minutes. If you have any questions about that, you can always contact me or Dr. Benitez. And if you want to have a special podcast or whatever to get at some of these issues, we can probably do that as well. But we can't talk our way out of situations that we behaved ourselves into. We simply can't do it. And any high sounding rhetoric, wherever it occurs, is not a solution. We have to get on the ground and deal with these issues. I've worked with gangs. I've worked with gang leaders. And I've helped kids who are prone to violence because I was that way myself for a time. And it's not easy. But by the same token, you cannot allow a small group of people who are willfully and planning mayhem to upset the climate of teaching and learning and the buildings. So I'm going to stop on that point, ask you to look at the minutes that we gave, and then when Keisha Red Hannons begins her report, she'll be able to bring you up to date on the reading initiatives. And I'm going to say this, the state should back off on trying to force school systems to adopt textbooks and be more concerned about helping teachers develop the skills that they need in order to teach kids, no matter what text they use. Because the biggest variable in whether or not kids learn to read is the child's motivation and the skill of the teacher. And it would be helpful if the text is interesting as well and captivating. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Questions or comments, Mr. Goldson?
I would 15.5% of the students in one school suspended in the first semester is not a small cohort of people planning mayhem. I would state that having 79.8% of the students in one of our schools being chronically absent during the first marking period is not an issue that we should be ignoring. It's an issue that we should raise and continue to raise until we have some movement on how to solve it. And that is an absolute disaster to get a document this weekend that says in one school, 79% of the kids were chronically absent in the first marking period. In another school, 65%. In another school, 57%. In another school, 56%. In at least 10, in at least 15 of our schools, over 35% of the students were chronically absent during the first marking period. This is not an exaggeration. This is not us throwing our hands up in the air and trying to get attention. These are real problems. These are real issues. When you have 16, almost 17% of the students in one school being suspended, that's a problem. And raising that problem is not trying to get attention. Is not trying to make a big issue out of something that doesn't exist. It's a real issue. And I still have not, after 7 years on this board, heard a solution to these issues, to these problems. And maybe it's just me, maybe 80% of the kids being chronically absent is not a big deal. I don't know. Somebody set me straight if I'm wrong. But if I'm right, then teaching and learning or whatever other committee should be giving us recommended solutions. We got a whole bunch of federal and state money this year that we're not going to have in the future. And if we're going to spend that money, we better spend it the right way. Now, my understanding is that during that meeting with the state not too long ago, the state brought out a spreadsheet that said, here's the money that you haven't encumbered yet, that you haven't spent yet, that you haven't told us how you're going to spend. And it was several, I think it was like $14 million. We need to address these problems. And I'm going to continue to say that. And I hope Mr. Bustamante continues to say that at these board meetings. Because I don't know if any parents that want to send a kid to a school where 80% of the kids are not even showing up, and 17% of the kids are being suspended. This is not a special school for kids who are on their way out the door. These are regular mainstream New Haven schools. And by the way, it's really disappointing to get this information because there's at least 7 schools that are not even on the list that we don't have information for. So it's not just that we're getting devastating information from this administration, but we're not even getting all the information. And how are we supposed to address the problems when we got a list, and 7 of our schools are not even on the list? 7. How are we supposed to be helpful to the school system when we have parents who are calling us and saying that their children are being transferred out of their schools halfway through the school year? And the board is not even informed of this. It wasn't on our agenda anytime in the last month or two. I know I wasn't informed, maybe other board members weren't, but this school is in a district that I represent electorally. And look, I was elected by people in that ward where that school is. And I wasn't even given the courtesy of being told that these kids were getting ready to be transferred out of this school. And we still haven't gotten details about the transfer. All we got was a text message at last Monday's meeting, during the meeting at 7 o'clock saying, oh yeah, we're doing this. Nothing else. A text message, by the way, which as far as I know is illegal through FOI for a board member or staff to be texting the entire board during a board meeting. I didn't see the text until 2 or 3 days later. So yes, you know, I'm trying to be less passionate in my older age. You know, I'm trying to put less stress on my system while I'm still battling the remnants of this cancer. But I was put on this board. I came on this board to do something. I didn't come on this board to sit around and get my name on plaques and to be and whatever other accolades that may come with being a member of this board. I came on this board to actually do work, to actually make a difference. And I'm embarrassed when I get a piece of paper that says 70, 80% of our kids in a school in my district are chronically absent. That 16.5% of one of our high schools, 16.5% of the kids have been suspended in the first marking period. Yeah, that's frustrating to me. And I hope that we have a real discussion. I don't want to get any more 10-page documents, dissertations from all kinds of people throughout the country about how everybody's having problems. I want to talk about the problems we have and the solutions that we have for our problems. I'll let other people worry about what's happening in Timbuktu. Thank you, Madam President.
Dr. Jordan, does that conclude your report?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I actually,
Okay.
I actually said I concluded it before.
Okay,
This,
thank you, Dr. Joyner. Facilities Naming Committee report, Dr. Joyner?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report? Dr. Tracy?
Thank you, Madam President. I must say, having served New Haven School for almost 39 years, I'm proud of New Haven Public Schools. There's so many things that we've done well in New Haven Public School. There's so many supports we've given to families and students in New Haven Public Schools. There's so many great teachers, great administrators here in New Haven Public Schools. And I'm reaching out to welcome new teachers to come into New Haven Public Schools. This is one of the best places to work. There are challenges. Yes, I don't see a school system without a challenge. There are issues. Yes. It's how we solve them and how we put our heads together to solve those that will make a difference. Not depreciating the district, nor depreciating others for the work they're doing. I am proud to be here, proud for the service I've given to this district of ours. And I am also proud of the fact that the state has accepted New Haven Public Schools District Literacy Leadership Team into its second cohort of the master's class for the science of reading. And so we're going to start that work on the first session is November 30th from 8 to 3. And then a couple of other sessions after that. We have to be committed to this work. So we have teachers, administrators, some central office, some school level, some coaches on this literacy leadership team that we are going to be able to help spearhead that work. Because we're involved in that, they will also be having some coaching support to New Haven Public Schools. So this is great news for us. We just got the news thing just before Thanksgiving, so I'm happy to share that with the board. At this time, Ms. Keisha Hannans and the teaching and learning team, in particular Lynn Brantley and her team, they've been working hard on getting some information across to the New Haven public. I must commend them for the great job they did in bringing in 6 different reading vendors into New Haven, open up to share what has been happening. And I am glad that a couple of board members, 1 or 2 of them, I think, were able to attend this session to see the different programs that were being shared. Thank you for those who were able to come to see what was there. And now I'm going to ask Ms. Hannans to just give an update of where we are. We also shared in teaching and learning last week, which is in the board packet, of the different levels and types of professional development that's going on across New Haven Public Schools. So Ms. Hannans, your turn. Thank you.
Good evening, board. It is always an honor to come before you. I am having some tech issues, so I am on my phone as well as the computer for audio. As Dr. Tracy stated during our teaching and learning committee meeting, each curriculum supervisor presented their professional learning plan for the district. You have received that information in your packet. We will also include that, update the website to include that information on our academic page. It did not only include our CIA contractual days, but also our learning academies that each supervisor will be hosting for staff. Our teachers have the opportunity to participate in a learning academy. Some of our teachers are even reaching out to our curriculum supervisors to ask, can they lead a particular academy for teachers? And I do believe teachers learn best from teachers. And so we are supporting our teachers in their endeavor and their leadership to reach out to help and support other teachers. So I definitely wanted to say that. Dr. White, has Ms. Brantley been updated so we can talk about our reading pilot? Ms. Brantley, as we begin to talk about our K-3 reading pilot, this is in response to the right to read legislation. Dr. White, you can begin sharing, and Ms. Brantley can take over from there. She will talk about our pilot program and where we are now. And then, of course, we'll be available for questions. Ms. Brantley?
Yes, good evening, everyone. So thank you for having me come share. And yes, thank you for anyone from central office, board members. We had a few parents, we had a student from ESAMS, we had teachers and instructional coaches come in to view the products, the programs we are reviewing for this pilot. So if Dr. White can, whoops, not sure where it went, Dr. White. But I can talk without a PowerPoint, trust me. So as he gets it set back up, okay, we always start with our strategic plan, as always. This work falls under academics, falls under youth and family engagement, falls under teaching talented educators, and partly under operational efficiencies when we talk about structures, and certainly culture and climate as we talk about engagement. In your packet, you have the PowerPoint. I'm not sure that, obviously it's not a live document unless you got it as an electronic version, but this live document is the history of literacy coming back from, goes all the way back to 2010. And it tells you when we adopted which pieces of our curriculum and which times we had things vetted by UConn, and then instructional moves we made. It's okay. You can go ahead to the next one. Hopefully the board will be able to access that link if you wanted to, Dr. White. We would just have to right click and open the link if you think that we need to share it here. But
I think
we're fine with going ahead.
yes, I think we
Yeah,
can
go
go
ahead. So we're here today at this point with a pilot coming forward, one from legislation and one because we are looking at our readers, our students, and we are looking at how we best grow readers, because growing readers raises scores. I caution us to continually have conversations about numbers and not think about practice, right? When we grow readers, when we build strong practice in teachers, scores follow. It should not be flipped. So we are here today because we are ensuring that New Haven Public Schools literacy curriculum will embody the guidelines found in the appropriation bill, which included 7 components of reading. We have a commitment to training all the stakeholders. We have begun already this year with 2 of the components of reading. We have done PA and oral language as our first module for both teachers and administrators. We have done phonics for our teachers, our coaches, and we will soon be giving that to administrators. And last, we need to work on, and we are working on, the alignment of the K-3 resources so that all 7 components will be evident in the curriculum. So the program selection, we are looking at the ones below: American Reading Company called Art Core, Amplify, CKLA, HMH Into Reading, McGraw-Hill Wonders, and Savas My View. And some of the qualities we're looking at is our time allotments, right? What they fit into the allotment of time that we are guided for literacy. We want resources both in English and Spanish. We don't want them, we are buying a component in English and then having someone outside translating, right? So we know we have a very high multilingual community. We want both of those companions to follow, and that because it's at the tenets, the core of what we believe in our methodologies for teaching, is that their strategies provided support all readers, all readers. So we have been looking at it in that view. You can go ahead. The pilot details, they're here and they're going to be reiterated in the next slide. So I'm sorry for the repetition, but sometimes in teaching, we repeat in order to know, right? So we are selecting schools and teachers for cross-district diversity. We have met with principals. We will be meeting with individual teachers. We have allowed the building leadership to work with us to create spaces and places that they feel the pilot will work best in their school. We're planning an initial training that will take place for the staff. We had our expo in November. It was part of the initial piece. We'll be receiving pilot materials, right? That'll be used in schools. And in the pilot, we will be all along looking at student work samples, participating in observations, sharing feedback from teachers, providing a roundtable experience. They'll continue in the classroom to the end of the year with a very definitive stop in spring for certain pieces to be reviewed. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see it plotted out in months, right? So we examined all of the programs that were put forward by the state. And we had a team of people from the ELA, the MLL, and SPED, and then the central office staff reviewing. We had principal meetings with the pilot schools chosen. And the biggest thing was the Reading Expo, maybe, as equally, I won't say biggest thing, but I think it was very important to open to the community to be able to come and actually talk to the vendors that are experts in the programs, to be able to actually touch and look at the materials and ask questions. And we held it for 2 days so that we could expand the time available. We know people often, will have a problem on one day and not the other. And we expanded it after school. And both of those days, people stayed in Brahms Parish Hall longer than the time. No one left at 5 o'clock. If people were there and asked questions and wanted to participate, we were there. In November, we also are, as I said, matching the school and pilot programs. We're going to pick certain grades in schools with the leadership teams. We'll have that initial staff meeting, which we have. So December, we'll obtain the scope and sequence from the ones that we choose. We will look through the research, the alignment, the assessments, and the full line of online access from those chosen companies. We'll begin training for teachers. And so the professional development piece was a huge piece for us as we reviewed all of the products and as we had community members review the products, right? We had an actual survey that guided questions around exemplar experiences in literacy, so that when they walked through, they could ask those. January to June, we'll engage in the pilot. All of those things will happen, walkthroughs all the time, feedback sessions, and collection of student work. And the stop points we're putting in the mid-year check or the midpoint check-in will happen in April. We will begin vetting the process now of the programs, because now that it's been in schools, we'll have had observations, student work, and those feedback sessions. And we know that the state is asking us for actually July to 2023, our program, our plan going forward. So the next slide is not all of what's next steps, right? But these are two critical ones coming up. We're matching the pilot program to schools, right? So we're looking at which schools out of the 12 we picked would be the best place to pilot the program we have chosen, or we will have multiples. And then scheduling the training of the pilot program for the teachers. Again, big push for us when we talk to vendors, where we want on-demand embedded training for our teachers. We would really prefer someone being in-house, in district from the program to support all of the work going on. So those are the two heavier lifts, but there are certainly many next steps coming after this, one inclusive of expanding our plan. You have all seen the plan. Many people in the community have seen the plan. We continue to rework the plan, but to expand that plan out 2 to 3 more years, so that we know nothing gets established in 1 year, right? We have a 3 to 5 year plan when we look at such a major lift and then look at outcomes. That concludes what I have for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions around this work.
I will just add as well that we received great feedback from the Reading Expo. We had over 70 members of our school community attend the expo, and it's important. It's important for us to implement the pilot because we want to see the materials in class with students as well as teachers, see how students are truly engaged with the materials, as well as I want to hear from teachers and how much do they have to actually supplement to ensure that students have an enriching and engaging experience in their classroom, and the ease of use of the lesson plans that are also in the materials as well. So we're looking forward to our pilot. We've gotten good feedback thus far, and we're planning to continue on this path.
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Redhannons and Ms. Brantley. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions and comments, Mayor Elicker?
Thanks for the presentation. And I was very sad to have missed both days. I had conflicts on both days. So if there's any other opportunity that comes up for us to learn more, I just appreciate you letting us know about it. The only question I had is, do you, at the end of this, do you anticipate us choosing one? Or is there a potential for us to land on multiple different curriculums?
The Right to Read legislation has asked us to choose a program, our comprehensive reading program. So we plan to land on one program.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker, Dr. Joyner, and then Mr. Wilcox.
I'll defer to Mr. Wilcox. I've talked some tonight, and I'd like to hear from him before I speak.
Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you. I just two things real quick. One is I liked seeing both of the presentation we just saw about the K-3 reading pilot, but also is very nice to have the presentation in the packets about all the different professional learning opportunities that have been happening and ongoing. And those were in the packet and posted on the website as other meeting materials for this meeting too. So if anybody else wants to see them, but I did appreciate seeing that those possibilities are there. My one question related to the reading pilot is you talk about the pilot schools. Can you remind us what the pilot schools are? Because I think you said that there were 12.
Yeah, so let me pull up my list so I don't forget anyone, because I will do it off the top of my head, and I don't want to leave somebody out. That's like the worst thing you can do. But as I pull it up, I can go over some of them. So we have Conti West Hills, we have Barnard, we have Lincoln Bassett, we have Wexler Grant, we have Nathan Hale, we have Hooker, we have, I'm sorry, I'm going to just pull it up now so I do not forget the rest.
Lynn, do you want to send it to the board?
Oh, I can absolutely, but I
Yeah,
do
we
have it. I'm sorry, it just took me a second to go through. I just, I can give it to you really quickly. So we have Truman, John Daniels, Barnard, Clinton, John Martinez, Worthington Hooker, Nathan Hale, Beecher, Lincoln Bassett, and sorry, I don't know if someone else is on it, but it's moving. Conti and Troop, I believe. For whatever reason, it's bouncing around.
All right, thank you for that. I think it might be useful. I believe you all said that you're going to be posting this information in the academic section of the website. Might want to list those schools as well. There was a lot of interest in this over the summer and into the school year, and I'm sure there still is now. And I guess my side question to all this would be is if you were a person, a parent, a teacher, staff member at one of the non-pilot schools, but were still interested in this, is that the kind of information that the professional development upcoming stuff will be? I assume you don't have to be at a pilot school in order to get the information if you want to get it. Right?
Absolutely not. So the coaching staff that services all schools will be a part of this, right? So they will be able to, of course, turnkey any information or answer questions or field anything for the staff in other schools, and certainly parents. And the parents, can absolutely call the department. We're happy to do that. And just as a quick note, when you asked if there was, I believe it was Mayor Elicker asked if there's other chances, the reading department does have a sample of all of them. I would just need to know when people wanted to come by, if you wanted to actually see the material and look through the manuals yourself if you were unable to come on the days of the expo.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Dr. Joyner?
Mr. Golson can go because mine is sort of an extension of the TL report. And because I was at the expo and talked to others in this, so I'll let him go if he wants to go.
Mr. Golson?
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Thank you, Madam President. I'm sorry, I got two of the schools, I think. Conti, Barnard, Lincoln, Wexler, Nathan Hale, Hooker, Truman, John Daniels, Beecher, Troop. Who am I missing?
I would have to run through them again, if you don't mind. If you check off your list while I run through them, we'll get to the one, because I can't hold your list in my head. Truman, John Daniels, Barnard, Clinton, John Martinez, Worthington Hooker, Nathan Hale, Beecher, Lincoln Bassett, Conti, Bishop Woods, and Troop. I believe that is the
I'm still missing one, but that's okay.
Yeah, Mr. Golson,
I will definitely
have it on the list, right?
Wexler's not included on the list, just
so that is it. Yes.
Wexler is not included.
No,
which means I'm still missing two, but that's all right. When you
we'll
send the
send them
list.
to you.
Yeah. Can you, how were the schools chosen and what was the goal of this pilot program again? Because the information I have in my package doesn't give me a lot of explanation on that. Are we trying to address schools where there's higher numbers of children not reading at proficiency? I mean, I don't understand what the exact goal
So-
is. And I'd like to know what the methodology that was used to choose the schools that you chose.
So we chose, and Mr. Golson, you'll notice it's a variety of schools. There are neighborhood schools, there are magnet schools, there are schools from different regions of the city. We also selected schools based upon performance. Some of them are higher performing schools. Some of them historically have been some of our lower performing schools. And so we wanted to make sure we were able to, and we also have schools that have a high number of our bilingual learners, right? Our multilingual learners as well. So that's why you hear 12 schools that will be involved, because we wanted to make sure we had a diverse group of learners that we were able to implement the materials for. Our goal is to see exactly what I stated earlier, right? To see how our students engage with the materials. Do they find the books to be of high interest to them? Are they going home saying they want to read more and they want to engage in reading more? Are families seeing a difference in their children? As well as wanting to know what we can't know directly if we're sitting in a conference room, right? It's how the teachers interact with the materials as well. I want to make sure, and we want to make sure as a team, that there's ease of use of the materials for our teaching staff. We do not want this to be difficult for them. And they'll know as they engage intimately with these materials, and they will let us know pros and cons as they're implementing it in the classroom.
Are there extra resources going to these schools above and beyond the resources that they get?
Yeah, so they're going to receive additional professional development. We'll work with them with the actual vendors. We're also will go into the classrooms and do observations and provide feedback. We're going to work with our teaching staff. The one thing that this is not unique. We've implemented pilot programs before when we implement new curriculum. As you can recall, we just implemented a new math curriculum as well as a science curriculum, and we held pilot programs prior to the implementation of doing a full adoption of the curriculum materials. So we're very familiar with the process when it comes to adopting curriculum.
I understand that. The reason why I asked that question is because, for instance, Brennan Rogers, as far as I can tell, is not on that list, whereas Hooker is. And Hooker, by all standards, is a school that really doesn't need extra resources, and where students are, for the most part, high achieving. So I'm wondering why they would be put on this list for extra resources, especially extra reading resources, when we have other schools who are doing so much less well in reading.
Mr. Golson, I thought your question was in reference to resources to help them with getting familiar with the actual text. The question about extra resources for students, all of our teachers are receiving professional development. Both presentations were hand in hand. We did not go over the professional development, our professional learning opportunities workshop, because it was very extensive and we took time during teaching and learning. Brennan Rogers teachers will have access to the professional learning opportunities that we have in the district, as well as learning academies that we're also offering in the district. But the schools in the pilot are just receiving professional development on the new curriculum to help in implementing the new curriculum, but not anything in addition to what another school may be receiving. Those opportunities are available for all.
Are
And
the teachers?
our teachers also have opportunities, as I mentioned earlier. We've had teachers reach out to us and ask, can they lead some learning academies, and they're working with the curriculum supervisors to lead those academies as well.
Are the teachers getting extra stipends for the professional training and leading those whatever
Yes.
you just said?
Yeah, so the learning academies, the teachers do receive a stipend. Well, they receive the hourly pay, as well as the training is the teaching that occurs during the learning academies, and it's open to all.
And the teachers that are getting the professional development are also getting stipends for attending those professional development sessions?
The learning academies, yes, they are. So we have the contractual professional learning opportunities that we offer through our curriculum instruction and assessment days. You'll hear us refer to it as CIA days. That's within the contract. All teachers attend that. Anything above and beyond that, yes, they will receive stipends for the learning academies that they attend.
And what will those stipends be?
I mean, not stipends, the hourly rate. I apologize.
Okay. What will be the hourly rate?
Right now, the hourly rate is $32 an hour.
And how many hours do you expect each teacher to get under this training for this curriculum?
Each learning academy differs based upon the topic. So there's no set hours that are allotted, but we are utilizing our ARP ESSER funds to help offset the costs for this. And we think that this is a great investment as we're reinvesting in our own teaching staff to improve the quality of teaching, but also to, as Lynn stated earlier, to grow readers in New Haven Public Schools.
Yeah, but you're investing in some schools and not investing in others.
No, all schools have access. All teachers have access. I think you're
all
mixing.
Teachers will have access to the professional training?
Yes. Yes.
I think, can I just ask for clarification, Mr. Goldson? I think I need a clarification. Are you asking if the people, the teachers who are in the pilot are being paid differently? Or are you saying for just the academic learning academies? Because that is open to all.
I'm asking for both. I'm asking for both, actually.
That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah. So if our teachers in the learning, so I think there are two things, right? The teachers in the learning academy, they are paid to attend. They are also paid to lead. If our teachers in the pilot program, we find that it requires extra planning, we will work with our teachers to ensure that they're adequately compensated as well.
Okay, I probably shouldn't ask this question because it should be a given, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. I'm assuming that the teachers union has been involved in discussing how that happens.
I actually spoke with Leslie today around the pilot program, and we are still working out some of the questions, but I'm in constant conversation with Leslie.
And may I add, Mr. Golson, that the Leadership Academy, the academies that we've been having, this is over 3 years or more now we've been doing these, and I'm paying teachers to attend these professional development sessions. So this has been going on in New Haven school system for more than 3 years. We call them learning academies, and we pay our teachers. We used to pay them before we got the ESSER fund. We pay them from the Alliance funds to attend because these are outside of their working hours.
I understand that part, but I didn't understand was how the teachers who were participating in the pilot were going to be handled and treated and paid. That was the main question I had.
So
this is during school time, so there's no need to pay them during school time when they're piloting something. Only if they need extra time outside of school time, then that will be compensated.
Well, I would imagine that if you're going to pilot something, you have to actually get trained and prepare to be able to do that. I mean, you don't just give people material and say, here, do it. I mean, you have to train them on it, and then and then they have to prepare their how they deal with their students. So I'm assuming there's some extra work involved, and I'm hearing that there is. So maybe I should ask this question a different way. How much money is? First of all, have we passed this already? Is this something that we have approved already?
It doesn't need approval, Mr. Golson. We're just sharing right now what's going on.
So deciding on a vendor and a curriculum and a pilot program in our school system doesn't need approval from the board?
The vendors are not sure. I don't think the vendors are charging for piloting. They're helping, they're piloting these. They're piloting their programs to see whether or not New Haven Public School would be interested in buying their programs.
And
So,
we don't have a say in who's coming into our school system.
Mr. Golson, once we select a program, that's when we'll bring it to the board for approval. Right now, it's just the piloting phase, which we've done previously. As I stated, just most recently, last year with science and the year before with math, where we're just piloting the materials at this point. But once we narrow down to a decision, absolutely, we will be coming before the board.
I have to look at the state statutes again, because my understanding is that the board is the final say on what kind of curriculum we use and who we bring into our school system to provide that curriculum to us. And to come to us after you've made those decisions seems a little backwards to me, but that's okay. When is this program starting again?
The right to read legislation, we are to announce to the state by July 1st, 2023, the reading program that we will adopt. Remember, this is coming out of state legislation that we have to adopt a reading program. And that's by July 1st, 2023. And so we've taken several steps up until this point. And I know we've informed the board about the steps we have taken from meeting with vendors to the Reading Expo and to the pilot next.
One last question. Since I can't get an idea of how much the teachers are going to be getting paid for this at the end of the day, how much have we budgeted to pay teachers for the training and for the piloting of this program? What's the dollar amount?
We have, so in the professional development line item of ARP-ESSER, in our part-time line of ARP-ESSER, we will be able to cover the needs of our teachers. We're not, that part I am fairly confident in, and we're going to listen to our teachers. I think what you raise is something that we're often talking about, right? We want to make sure our teachers are treated fairly. And if they require extra time to plan outside of the school day, we are going to work with them for that.
With all due respect, Ms. Red-Hannons, the question I asked was how much.
I understand.
You don't have the answer right now. You could tell me that and tell me you're going to get it to me later, but either you have an answer or you don't have an answer. So the question was how much total in dollars is going to be used for training and piloting the program. I'm assuming from the answer you gave me that you don't have that in front of you at this point. Is that correct?
We don't have that in front of us. Yes, you are correct.
All right. So can I get it by tomorrow? I mean, I know that the superintendent has suggested that if I want information that all the other 6 board members have to request it in order for me to get it. I'm hoping that's not the case. And I'm hoping that by tomorrow that I could get that dollar figure, if you don't mind.
So I don't think you'll be able to get it by tomorrow, but if you want it, we'll get it to you, but we will not promise that you'll get it by tomorrow because it takes time for people to gather information. But I need to say this, that the board already voted on professional development, a big chunk of that in ARP-ESSER, voted on a big amount of money for us to do professional development. That was already passed through the board, through our abstracts and what have you that we've done for professional development. And that's from that funding source that money is coming.
So you should be able to get that information to me sooner rather than later. Thank you, Madam President.
Dr. Joyner?
Yeah, I want to take this opportunity to speak to the members of the TL committee so that we can anticipate questions in future board meetings. And when we are doing pilot adoptions, to do a brief paper, maybe a 2-page, on the adoption, the methodologies, subjects that are chosen as a part of it, as well as at the end of it, what the results were. And to also have any kind of financial, any cost estimated, because you can't always know the final cost, but estimated cost, and that might make the meeting flow better. I also want to remind the board and the community that we're only talking about K-3 reading in one sense, but the TL committee is talking about professional development for the entire district that's ongoing. And just because the school is not in the adoption pilot does not mean that they're not getting good reading instruction. Because Dr. Tracy and any good educator's opinion is that the magic of improved reading skills lies in the teacher, not the textbook. And we've been teaching people to read for a long time before we even had basals. And one of the things that the state did, in my opinion, incorrectly, is it was a top-down mandate rather than sitting down with superintendents, developing the organizing framework for effective teaching of reading, and then choosing materials based on that organizing framework. And just to give you a brief example of that, if you think about reading, you read the lines, you read between the lines, you read beyond the lines. And reading on lines involves phonemic awareness and phonics, but that's only a part of reading. And quite frankly, even if you're a good reader and you're fluent, when you read material from a subject that you're unfamiliar with, you go back to phonics again. For instance, there are some terms in genetics that I would have to ask Dr. Yarborough to help me pronounce. Many of them are Latin and Greek derivatives, and there are terms in political science that I might have to ask. I think Merrick Elliker has, well, he has a degree in foreign languages and a master's in organizational behavior, but there are terms in organizational development that are different. And so we constantly go back and forth between reading the lines, reading between the lines, and reading beyond the lines. And then the most important part of reading is critical response to text. Because when somebody gives you something to read, they're trying to get you to do something, buy something, or believe something. So if you can't see, if you don't have a crap detector, I think it was Public Enemy who said, don't believe the hype. You can actually believe the hype and buy something you don't need, believe something you should believe. And if you know, the media is full of people today who are buying into false narratives about people and all kinds of things. So we're in the process of trying to build a K-12 curriculum for reading based on essential elements of reading, which I just mentioned. And at upper levels, inferential reading and critical evaluation of text is critically important. And unless we can be assured that every teacher of any content area is teaching the kid how to read in that content area, then we're going to lose the game. So there's a different level of skill required to read science content, required to read literature, required to read history, historical fiction, and so on and so forth. And that's a hard lift, but we're trying to do it. And what Dr. Tracy is leaving us with, hopefully, is that we're trying to create a core of teachers who understand the essential elements of reading, but they also understand something that reading researchers don't talk about, and that's interest. Because interest is a big force multiplier. If you give kids stuff interesting to read and they can read, they will sneak and read it. The other thing that's related to almost any human improvement is volume. And that's why I've been pushing independent reading. I know it works because we did it at Jackie Robinson, and we had kids that went to law school, medical school, and so on and so forth. and they came out of difficult, challenging socioeconomic environments, but they did, and I can name them. So we've got to get our kids to read more, but the only way we can get them to read more is to give them high interest material. And you use any material that is not nasty or vulgar, but has high interest to them. And we should also give them the option to read what they want to read in the independent reading strategies. We've gotten away from spelling. Spelling is very important. Vocabulary is the force multiplier. The biggest indicator of intelligence, at least intellectual, not moral intelligence, but cognitive intelligence, is a person's vocabulary, stored vocabulary, because vocabulary is the building blocks of written text. So I see we have a lawyer on the screen. He knows that there are legal terms that if you don't know what they mean, you can't practice law well. And so that's the code. And you can learn words on your own. And that's why I'm for a specialized vocabulary list in content areas, as well as a general vocabulary list in general areas. If kids are home and sick and they got any degree of energy, they can work on their words. If they're in a science class, every content area has a dictionary. There's a dictionary in every content area. That's the specialized vocabulary that we need to be working on. And the board's job is to create a policy that is broad enough to give the people that are professional educators the options and opportunities to execute, to develop administrative procedures, classroom practices, so that we can see that the policy up here is being implemented in the classroom. If we can't get it done in the classroom, doesn't matter what we do up here. The real deal is what principals and teachers do in schools. And the unions, the school board, the superintendent, we are that support system for them. The union to make sure that the contract is enforced and that we're working together on issues that are not there so that we can be on the same page. And of course, the board to create the broadest policy that we can to protect those things in the classroom, and administrators and principals to make sure that the classroom is orderly, safe, fair, and just. That's all we need. But all we need is a lot. And I'm hoping that we can focus our energy on that. And maybe if we need to have side conversations, get additional information, go to the right person, try to get as much as possible, send our questions in advance of the meeting if we can, and try to work together in harmony and peace. Because we're in trouble, y'all. And by the way, Dave, that's a Southern word. I'm glad you learned it. Y'all. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Let's see. Dr. Tracy, does that conclude your superintendent's report? That's. Can you hear me?
Oh, I was miming. Yes, that concludes my report for the evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to the president's report.
Point of order, Madam President.
I'm sorry?
Point of order, Madam President. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me, Madam President?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering why we have this information in our packages around school suspensions and absenteeism rates. And so why do we have these in our packages if we're not going to have a discussion around them or an explanation of why they're there and some context?
I could answer that, Madam President. I think a board member requested that the last time. I don't remember if it was Dr. Yarborough or was Dr. Bain. Someone requested why didn't we break it out in schools? So we were updating that to break it out for that. It was not the entire board that asked for that. So we put it in the packet because a board member had asked for it. That's why it's in the packet. Yes.
Well, there were 7 schools that were missing from the list of from the suspensions
Okay, we'll go
list.
back and check on that. Thank you.
I think we also asked what schools had in-school suspension and which ones did not. That's not included on the list. So can that be included?
We'll try our best to get that next time if you request that.
I'm requesting it again.
Mr. Golson, you have to understand that my staff is not just sitting around mining data. We have one individual mining the data for us. When we ask for data, we wait until we get that data. What I get, I report. And we're being very transparent. Good, bad, the ugly, we present it. And so whenever we get that data, I didn't hear that was asked for in terms of in-school suspension. And so we'll provide that next time around.
Dr. Tracy, with all due respect, we're not the one, you came to this board with this information several months ago without any real context and caused a public relations disaster for the school system.
Point of order.
Presenting those numbers
Mayor
without any
Elicker,
context.
Mayor Elicker.
This item is not on the agenda. We're on a different item on the agenda. If we could just focus on the
Thank
item
you.
on the agenda,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. Your point of order is well taken.
Dr. Tracy brought it up. So it's a part of her report now. She's the one who.
It's not on the agenda, Mr. Goldson. We're not going to discuss it. It's not on the agenda. It's an item just for you to have. Thank you. I'll move on to the president's report. And I'll just say that after carefully going through the proposals and interviewing the semifinalists, the board has selected McPherson and Jacobson as the search firm to assist in finding our next superintendent. They have decades of experience in this and have placed more than 900 superintendents and other officials in public and nonprofit organizations across the country. We're going to be meeting with them to establish the timeline and milestones, but our goal is to make a decision by the end of March 2023 so that we can have someone in place when Dr. Tracy retires in June. We do know we will be advertising nationally for this position, and we'll be seeking input through a survey, meetings, and stakeholder groups, and at least one public hearing. And I'll provide those details at our next Board of Ed meeting. In the meantime, please be thinking of what you think New Haven needs and its next superintendent. And with that said, I move that we approve the award to McPherson and Jacobson in accordance with their RFP response. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Any discussion? Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. It should be known on the record that both the two top firms were within a point or two of each other in our final scoring process. It was a close call, but at the end of the day, McPherson pulled it out with an extra 2 points. I think either company would have served us well. I look forward to moving this process forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Attorney Alexiadis, did I see you raise your hand? I just saw it on the corner of my eyes. I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no further discussion.
I don't think I did, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. All right, so seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on that item. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
Mr. Goldson?
I'm going to have to recuse myself because I was not able to participate in the second interview with the companies. So I support your position, but I'm going to recuse.
Okay, thank you. Let me just write that down. Mr. Cruz Bustamante?
Abstain, I didn't participate in the process. My bad.
Thank you. Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. And so that item passes. Head Start report, Mr. Wilcox.
I'll be brief. We had to cancel that meeting, the standing meeting, and we're going to be rescheduling one before the next full board meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. And Citywide Building Committee report?
We haven't met since the last meeting. Our next meeting, I think, is December 8th.
Okay. And finance and operations.
Just briefly, we already went through the action items. Some other things on the agenda that we're going to be doing is we're working through Series 3000 policies still, as well as also updating the forms that we use, the cover sheet memo forms that we use to make things crystal clear for everybody and to make it easier for folks to pull out the information that's needed. So we hope to nail those down along with timelines and schedules for everything at our next meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick point. I think Mr. Wilcox is aware of this. I think he was moving on. I just want to make sure that he is. There is a procurement policy that we approved, I believe, last year. That is still not up on the website. I think the old policy is up. So it's a little confusing. So I hope that the staff, as quickly as possible, replaces the old policy with the new policy.
So I had an indication today from Tiffany Jackson that information was posted. I haven't had a chance to double check it myself, but I did receive that email today after asking to make sure that things were up in place.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Goldson? Governance report, Dr. Benitez?
Yes, our next meeting will be December 5th, and we are going to be working on Series 3000. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Food Service Task Group report, Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, we will have our next meeting in December. And the under Ms. Gale's leadership, the subcommittees on the food gap is working towards our next break, December break.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Okay, and with that, I'll move that we go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 12006B and 1201B4 and 10 concerning strategy and negotiations with respect to pending claims by Angela Walder and discussion which should result in the disclosure of attorney-client privileged communications.
Second.
Mr. Wilcox?
Dr. Joyner beat me to it.
Dr. Joyner seconded. Thank you. Any discussion, Attorney Alexiadis?
Who will be in the room?
Yes, Madam
Oh,
President,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Goldson just, yeah. I would suggest that you include
Attorney
myself and Attorney Natalia
Sierra
Milan.
Milan. Attorney
also, Madam
Natalia
President,
Sierra Milan. Go ahead.
I didn't get a Zoom link for the executive session. I don't know if anyone else did.
It was emailed by
Just-
Ms.
Viviana sent it.
I just emailed it to
Okay.
you. I forgot to add you. I apologize.
Does
did
Natalia
not
have
send it
it
to
also?
you.
Please
we'll
include
be
Attorney
including-
Milan also.
She is involved. Yes.
So we'll be including Attorney Alexiadis and Attorney Sierra Milan.
Signing off.
Okay. We have to vote.
Yeah, we do.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Mr. Cruz Bustamante,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. So we'll see you at the exec session. Okay, Dr. Tracy, did you end the meeting? I was still
No,
talking.
I was not the host. Who was the co-host?
No, I was just the host. There was no co-host. That was weird. I'm like,
What
what
was weird? It said was
happened?
ended, and I said,
I think the attorney was the co-host.
oh.
Oh, got it. Okay, no, no worries. I'm like, what in the world happened? Okay, we're good. All right, so we are out of executive session and back in regular session. There were no votes in executive session. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion, and that is I move that the Board of Education approve the proposed settlement agreement with Angela Walder, and move further that the board authorizes its president to execute the approved settlement agreement with Angela Walder.
Second.
any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote to approve the Walder agreement and to have me sign it. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Ms. Roman. Oh, she's not in. Mr. Cruz Bustamante. He's still on?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and so that motion passes. And
Move
with
to
that, I'll
adjourn.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Cruz Bustamante,
Yes.
Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Good night, everyone. Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Night. Thank you.